So, welcome back to part 2 of Long COVID Brain Fog. I'm Tim Robinson, Dr. Tim Robinson, formerly a family doctor for 30 years, now Long COVID Services for 5 years, posting on podcast channels and YouTube, and I hope you're finding them helpful. If you like them, click on subscribe. Sorry, it's a bit of a cliche, it's a bit of a plug, but everyone does it. Why not? Why shouldn't I? I've had to add my usual disclaimer, of course. Any advice on treatment that I mention should only be considered after discussing with your own doctor. So, in part 1, I talked about the causes and the various aspects of long COVID brain fog. I'm going to talk now about how we're going to tackle it. So, when we're tackling it, we've got to think about the general approach and the specific approach. So, first of all, the general approach. The general approach is all to do with the fact that long COVID, as we know, and I've said so many times now, is a multi-causal, multi-symptom, multi-system condition. It's complicated. It's not, it's complicated and complex. There's no single treatment. There's no silver bullet. We need to consider brain fog alongside of all the other symptoms. That's really important. It's sort of not in isolation. It's not just brain fog we're going to try to tackle. We want to tackle all your long COVID symptoms. But we need a package of treatments and strategies, therefore. But the mainstay is dear old 4 Ps: the planning, the prioritizing, the pacing, and the power. For energy saving and energy building. Okay, why? Because mental function is really a high energy, so it's a high demand process. Okay, it requires a lot of energy to think. Okay, so planning, for a mental task, such as writing a letter or an email or attending a meeting, etc. You've got to be strict with yourself. Strict with the time you give to that letter, writing that letter or that email or the meeting. Restricted to a certain length of time. Prioritize. So, remember the 4 Ds. Is this a task that I have to do? This mental task. Is it something I have to do? Or is it something I can delay? Or is it something I can get someone else to do? Someone else can write that email, maybe. Or is it something that I really need to do? If not, dump it. So pacing is really, so that's 2 of the 3 Ps, 4 Ps. Pacing, again, remember, it's not dissimilar to physical tasks and mental tasks. If you've got a long letter to write, divide it into 2, and then take a break, take a rest. And then, after your rest, start it again. So no more, push on through. Remember, small chunks. And then finally, power, the 4th P, to self. Power to self. Don't beat yourself up. No one's judging you. No shame. You're in control. So those are the general approaches that are so important and so integral to so much to do with long COVID recovery. Okay. What about the approaches for specific problems? Well, in brain fog, the 2 specific problems are concentration and memory. So we need to know how to tackle both of those. So firstly, the specific problem of concentration. How are we going to tackle that? So to concentrate best, we need to have no distractions, no interruptions, in order to keep focus. So background noise, chatter, they're distractions, aren't they? Okay, so we've got to find a quiet place, or get yourself some earplugs. You want to be able to block out that background noise and that chatter. Turn a radio off, Reading. When you're in order to concentrate, to keep the thread, to stop your mind wandering whilst you're reading, there are a couple of little handy tips and tricks. Get yourself a ruler, and sort of as you go down the page, lower the ruler underneath each line and read each line individually, and then slip to the next line and the next line. That'll stop your eye jumping around and sort of being distracted and led elsewhere, and so you will be able to keep that focus. Or underlining, people use pick up a pen and they and follow instead of the ruler, follow as they're going along, reading along with the pen as a pointer. Another trick that people use is actually whispering what you're reading. As you're reading, sort of saying it, quietly whispering it, or saying it out loud, or just whispering it in your head, if you like, just in order to keep that concentration going. Word finding is a problem in long COVID, isn't it? You remember what I said? People say, they're halfway through a sentence, they say, it's on the tip of my tongue. I've lost the word. And, ridiculously easy. What is this? I can't remember. So what do? You talk around the word. Okay. So, I've got this, pick up this thing that I use to write letters, etc. And then as you've jumped over the fact that you can't remember the word, and as you then carry on with your sentence and explain it to whatever you're talking, and then suddenly it'll probably just pop into your mind at that point. But even if it doesn't matter, because actually you've moved on. You've leapfrogged over that word that you couldn't remember. And then the other thing is losing things. In brain fog, that is a problem, isn't it? Where did I put my car keys? I can't remember. Where am I? Where did I take my shoes? And where did I take my shoes off and leave them? So retrace your tracks. Remember, so I came in the back door and I put the car keys and I put the shopping down and then. So retrace your tracks. That's backtracking. It's maybe common sense. Maybe it's something you do already, but I'm just pointing these things out in case you haven't. So the next specific problem is memory, isn't it? Okay, that short-term memory problem that a lot of people complain about. We know how to. We need to know how to tackle memory problems. So ways to help that poor short-term memory. So names, for example, when someone introduces themselves to you, and hello, Fred Blogs. Hello, Fred Blogs. So repeat Fred Blogs back. Repeat is reinforcing it. So you're actually hearing it and then you're verbalizing it. Okay. So repetition and repeat it. Keep repeat it. And hello, I'm Fred. Hello, Fred. You can actually, as you're then engaging in a conversation, keep saying to yourself, this is Fred, this is Fred, this is Fred. Okay. Repetition, reinforcing what you've just been told. Hopefully it will land, in your brain. Reminders, again, if you've got short-term memory, you do forget things. You forget to sort of, appointments or things you were meant to be doing. So if you've got a list of things to do, make a list. So if you've got a number of tasks to do of a day, make a list. Okay, calendar. Get yourself a wall calendar and hang it up in the kitchen, and write down appointments or invitations. Where you're going to go and visit something, or families coming to stay. Write it down on the calendar. Timers, good old mobile phone. There's a timer on my mobile phone. And also there's sort of lists. I talked about writing lists, of things you've got to do. But, these good old mobile phones have lists it's sort of incorporated in them. So, basically use it. Post-it notes. I love Post-it notes. I've got lots of Post-it notes here. There's another one here. And I'm forever writing most of the notes. I haven't got long COVID. I haven't got brain fog. But, Post-it notes are fantastic. Put a Post-it note on the fridge saying, don't forget to order more milk. Put a Post-it fruit on the back door. Post-it note on the back door saying, don't forget the car keys or the house keys, more importantly. So Post-it notes. What about this thing I said about forgetting? Where did I put things? And I'm talking about backtracking, etc. Well, again, talked about the car keys, talked about the house keys. Put the keys in a bowl. There is one spot, one base for that bowl, one base for those car keys. So make it like your reflex action. You do it automatically. You put the keys in the bowl. That's where the keys go. You're not going to lose them. Okay. Or put a hook by the back door. Yeah. I guess a lot of people do that. Your purse, your wallet, just put it in the top drawer or in your handbag. All these, it might sound, such, amazingly simplistic, but actually these are little tips and tricks that actually can help. Okay. Help you stop losing things. Another common problem is your pills. If you're on any tablets, any medication, and you ask yourself, have I taken my pills, etc. They're in their boxes or bottles, stacked up, lined up in the kitchen or where have you. Have I taken my pills? I can't remember. I normally take them before breakfast. I can't remember. Don't know. Get yourself a pill dispenser. Fill it once a week. And then if the pills are not in Monday's pills are gone, it means you've had Monday's pills. You can stop worrying about, have I had my pills? Yes or no. Leave that pill dispenser, by the kettle. It's there. And when you make a cup of tea, first thing, or tea middle of the morning, pill dispenser. Yes, I can check. I've had my pills. So another thing that's important is to actually admit to people that I have had brain fog. I've got brain fog. I'm so sorry. But don't be embarrassed about it. Ask someone's name again. Oh God, what did you say your name was? Ask them what your name is again. If people are explaining something and they're going too fast, ask them to slow down and just say, look, I'm so sorry. I've had COVID. I got long COVID, and part of that is brain fog. So you're just going to have to go slowly. Bear with.
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
Siri.
Could you repeat that?
Shut up, Siri. So other treatments besides sort of general and specific approaches. So remember, brain fog is due to many causes, like the direct and indirect. But, and I've talked about mast cell activation, for example. So, there are treatments for that. Again, look at podcasts on mast cell activation. So there is the H1 and H2 blockers, so antihistamine, acid tablets for mast cell activation. I'm doing another one update soon anyway. So if that's treated, and again, I've had patients who say to me, I'm really glad you suggested mast cell activation treatment, the H1, H2 blockers, because actually, not only is my gut symptoms and my skin problems, my nasal congestion, etc., better, but actually I'm more alert. I think my brain fog's not so bad. I'm not as fatigued. Okay, so a pleasant and fortunate offshoot of or byproduct of using those treatments. The sleep problems, you remember, sleep problems lead to and contribute to your brain fog. So sleep problems need to be addressed. Okay, so make sure that your bedroom is quiet, and and maybe get some earplugs. For if your neighbours are noisy or there's a barking dog or something or other, Plugs, why not? Make sure the bedroom is nice and dark. Blackout curtains maybe, or eye visors. No screens, no tablets, no tablet, no iPad or phone within an hour of going of lights out, because the screens emit something called blue light. It's that light at a particular frequency, which brings about sort of, if you like, mentally arousing. Okay, so to help those sleep problems, you'll be fresher. So to help those sleep problems, well, you could try Piriton, for example, which is a old-fashioned antihistamine, which is no longer used because it makes you sleepy. So we can use that to your advantage. You can buy it over the counter, 4 milligrams at sort of an hour before going to sleep, before lights out, will help help you on the way to sleeping. People use synthetic melatonin. You can buy that online, but remember, buying anything online, be wary. So GPs can give you a short course of something called amitriptyline, which is a sort of an old-fashioned antidepressant. None of us use it for depression anymore. We use it for its sleep-enhancing properties and other things. But a GP could give you that to help you get off to sleep. Other things that need tackling that actually contribute to the long COVID is the dysautonomia. Okay, so dysautonomia, people use rebalancing techniques to increase their vagus tone. I think there's vagal nerve stimulation, which increases the parasympathetic nervous system, the calming element of the autonomic nervous system. It drops your pulse, but it also dampens down excessive inflammation. So maybe that's worth trying. Again, there are some studies that show that it actually brings benefits. And then I've talked a number of times about the dysbiosis, the unfriendly bacteria in your gut. Well, you do something about that. You could take a dose of probiotic, so a dose of lactobacillus or bifidobacter probiotic is a capsule to build up the numbers of friendly bacteria. Or you could, and I actually prefer this, the mixed balance Mediterranean diet, which nourishes your friendly bacteria with the fiber to sort of encourage regrowth of the friendly bacteria. And then there's the mind-body side, because I've talked about the stress and worries and mood changes that occur with long COVID, both for physical reasons, those direct causes, the effects on the brain, but also the indirect causes, the effects of having long COVID on your life, and your, the family life, social life, work life, brings these stresses, worries and mood changes. So why not try and tackle those stresses, worries and mood changes with things like mindfulness meditation, or yoga? There are heaps of studies that, and published studies in medical literature, that prove that mindfulness, the benefits of mindfulness and yoga are real, okay, measured, okay. They bring calm and focus and focusing on the now, as opposed to focusing on, worrying about the past or worrying about the future. It keeps you focusing on now. And yoga, especially, yoga sort of, you're focusing on the mantra and focusing on that one thing, which is part of the yoga meditative side, but also yoga respiration. The passage of the breath through the body is part of the yoga process, and reconditioning, and the postures that you go through with yoga are very good for reconditioning your muscles, your tendons, your ligaments, etc., that have become deconditioned. So think about mind-body to tackle those stresses, worries and changes. They will have a benefit on your long COVID brain fog. Is there anything else you can try? Well, that's what a lot of patients ask me. So let's put it into context here. Remember, and I keep saying this, long COVID is multi-causal, multi-symptom, multi-system. There's no silver bullet, but people do try supplements, and I understand that. I may well do the same if I didn't see the bigger picture with all the science and experience that I've got behind me. But people try vitamin B3, niacin, and coenzyme Q10, and NAC, so N-acetylcysteine and D-ribose. These are all supplements, non-herbal, with some positive evidence-based medicine to back them up. Not strong, but certainly positive. Okay, so why not try? Some herbal preparations to dampen down inflammation: pycnogenol, quercetin, resveratrol. These are all phytochemicals, so antioxidants that dampen down inflammation. So again, I have no objection to trying these things as long as you go about it sensibly. So try one at a time, and so that after you've used it for 3 or 4 weeks, then ask yourself, am I better, worse, or exactly the same? If you're better, or you're probably going to carry on with this particular supplement. If you're exactly the same and you're not improved, actually you're probably not going to carry on. Or if you're worse, then you're certainly going to discard them. Remember herbal preparations, though. Remember that can upset any medications that you're on. So always beware and ask your GP before you start a herbal remedy, or look at the data sheet as to see whether it interferes with conventional meds. So what to expect from this brain fog recovery? What do we see? What's our experience? What's my experience over these 5 years? Well, my experience is that there is slow improvement in brain fog, and as well as the other symptoms of long COVID, as long as you take care of yourself and use things like the 4 Ps that I've talked about: the planning, prioritizing, pacing, and power. Remember them. Yes, your default setting. Yes, the 4 Ps. And so it's remember also part of the improvement of brain fog is also the importance of knowing your condition, understanding your condition, and seeing the bigger picture. Okay, and having those realistic expectations of the outcome and the time frame. So, but like I said, expected outcome of brain fog through our collective experience. That's not just me, across all long COVID services and globally, is this gradual, slow improvement as long as you follow our advice. So to sum up, the causes of brain fog. So I've talked about, the causes of brain fog, those direct causes, indirect causes, and that's important, isn't it? For your own validation of others. You can say, no, I am not work shy. No, it's not all in my head. We know that, research has proved that COVID has caused problems within, say, the brain. And we need to sort of, tackle this brain fog. We need to treat the brain fog along with everything else to do with your long COVID. Not just brain fog in isolation. We need to treat those specific symptoms. I've talked about the MCAS. I've talked about the sleep, the anxiety and depression. We've got to treat those. We need to treat general well-being and immune support. So I've talked about the diet and mind-body. And we need to accept the reality of long COVID, its outcomes and its time frame. It's called long COVID for a reason. It's long. So there we are. Long COVID brain fog. That's my update on it. Okay, I hope you found it helpful. As I said at the start, this is an educational series for long COVID sufferers. But remember, my usual disclaimer, I have to put this in. Any advice or treatments that I've mentioned, discuss with your doctor. Remember, safety first. So if this has been helpful, click subscribe. Sorry, it's a bit of a cliche now, but I want to spread the word. I want as many patients with long COVID to hear these podcasts, to help them, to empower them, to actually give them the confidence and some guidance of safe, trusted information. So thanks for the feedback. Again, I said at the start, apologies, no replies from me. I just don't have the time, unfortunately. But I do appreciate that feedback. It's really helpful. It helps me sort of for my future postings. That's really good. So anyway, look out for the next one. So in the meantime, I wish you well with your long COVID recovery, and so all the very best.